Oh, well.
My first official. And watch it, now you know I know how to use it. So I grant permission to the Weston Media Center to record, I forgot to put this on, to record our meeting. Does anybody else want to record? Not seeing anybody, that's fine, and we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, great. It's not gonna, so we have some new members. Another one showed up. You're over here. And we have some new members, and we go around our circle and we can quickly introduce ourselves, and then we can talk later. But I will, if you go around, give your name and just how long you've been on FinCom, and maybe one thing about you. If you don't know, you can just say I don't know. You know your name though. So I'm Barb Delisle. I used to be on school committee. I've been on FinCom for 8 years. This is my 8th year. I picked up, I was on a couple terms, maybe it's my 9th year, I don't know. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jane O'Donnell. I am the administrator for the Finance and Warrant Commission and also for Westwood Housing Authority and Westwood Affordable Housing Associates.
I'm Lauren Fitzpatrick. This is my 2nd year, and one thing interesting, I run, so you might see me running around the town, literally, so.
Jim Ferraro, I think this is my 5th year, kind of lose count. I work in Cambridge, so I'm always having trouble getting here with the wonderful traffic we have. Must be a good economy.
I'm Bill Bruce. This is my 1st year on FinCom. Something interesting. I actually grew up in Connecticut and lived there until about 12, 13 years ago.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
Chris Parita, this is also my 2nd year on the FinCom. I'm a flight instructor in my spare time.
Diane McCarthy, it's my 2nd year on FinCom, and we have twins, 16-year-olds about to get their driver's license, taking the test in a week. So be careful, all of you.
Especially the runners.
Yeah, right.
Will you give us a notice whenever they
I
go?
will send out the notice.
Hi, my name is Mike Powers, and I was hoping Peter went before me so I'd know how many years actually we've been on this. I was trying to get, I think this is the beginning of our 5th year.
Yep.
Yeah, so beginning of 5th year.
George Hertz. I've lived in this town for 20 years, been on FinCom for 15, I think. Interesting enough, I also served on Needham's Finance Commission, so I'm probably one of the few people who has served on both. Anyways, it's delightful being here, and welcome to the new members. Thank you for joining us, and get ready to roll up your sleeves.
My name is Peter Itzig. I'm a new member tonight. I've been in Westwood since 1992.
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Cindy Buckley. This is my 6th year on Finance Committee, and I have a 10th grader at the high school.
Tom Kilgariff. This will be my 4th year on FinCom, and I grew up in Westwood as well, so been here a long time.
Caitlin Jerzak, 1st year. I have 3 kids. I have twins as well, just turned 3, and I have a kindergartner, just started at Downey.
Peter Lentz, I've been in town for 29 years. As Mike said, 5 years on the board here. And mostly I've been doing kind of municipal subcommittee, but changing a little bit this year, so looking forward to that.
I'm putting them on everything. All right, great. So we're going to start off with the person who has appointed most of us, Jim O'Sullivan, the town moderator, and he's going to briefly kind of describe our role, remind us of why we're here.
They have packets.
Oh, okay.
That's one. Do you need one, Jeff? Yes, I do. Yes.
First, thank you for serving. It's a lot of work. It's a tough job. It's a job I haven't done. And I don't think, unless you've really done it, I don't think people really appreciate all the work that you put into it. But it's an important job. There are 15 members of you. 5 get appointed every year, so that it's a rotating board, so that everyone doesn't get all appointed at once. You're going to hear quite a bit that open town meeting is true democracy, and I always wondered what that meant. And I guess in a simple form, the voters in town are the legislature. They vote on the budget and pass the laws. And you are the Ways and Means Committee. You've got a lot of authority. You're independent citizens. It's my job to try to make sure that this board is demographically diverse. You don't all come from the same backgrounds, you don't have all the same education, you're not all the same age, so you're going to have different perspectives. Bring the unique perspective that you have to this board. You're not going to agree with everyone, but try to understand at least the perspective of other board members. You might learn something. Don't be afraid to ask that tough question. Last year, most of these people have heard this, but I recall Ed McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense, I think that's his name, under President Kennedy, and right before the Bay of Pigs disaster, or fiasco, he wanted to ask the Joint Chiefs of Staff, would you send American soldiers in to this endeavor? And he didn't ask that, and I think had he asked that, they would have said no, and they would have realized it would have been a fiasco. So there's no dumb question. Don't be afraid to ask a dumb question. You have a lot of authority. You get to ask the administration in town any question, and they have to answer you. You're going to write a report that'll be submitted to the town prior to town meeting in May. So you're going to have to split that up. That's where the work's going to come in. You're going to come to a lot of meetings. The meetings are at night. A lot of people like to come and talk. And frankly, a lot of them don't say anything, and that's why I didn't want to be on this board. But I didn't say that. But again, thank you. Do you have any questions of me? All right, I wish you luck. Thank you for serving.
Jim, I have one question, as I always do. On the members may not hold elective office, that I understand, but the appointive office, is that a town decision or is that law?
That's in the charter.
It is in the charter?
Yes, it is.
It can't be appointed?
Right.
Okay.
Jim, could you also explain to us and also really more the new members about communication between us outside of these meetings?
You mean the open meeting law?
Yeah.
Jane is covering that.
Oh,
one.
Jane's going to cover it? Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and this is really Dottie's purview, and she's going to require you to take the online training about the open meeting law and the conflict of interest law. A couple of you can meet and talk, but you really can't meet as a group. 7 is a quorum at any function whether I believe, and I'm probably, Jane would know better because I haven't studied it, but you can't meet as a group and constitute a quorum because that is a violation of the open meeting law. So you just got to be careful when you go to functions like Mike's retirement party. Just be careful you don't discuss FinCom business. So, any other questions?
And later on, when we have subcommittees, Jane will talk about posting that information. Thank you. And we still have one appointment left. So I wanted to mention that Ellen Rollins resigned from the committee because she was appointed to the search committee or the screening committee for the town administrator. So she needed to step down from here, and she offered that she'd be willingly reappointed when that was dispersed. It hasn't dispersed yet, but in addition, she has now taken a job with the town of Westwood Public Schools, and so removed her name from consideration for another position. So Jim's in the process, thank you, of finding somebody.
Yeah, we have somebody in mind. She's going to observe tonight and let me know if it's something she's interested in.
So don't scare her.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay. So I'm trying to move things. I adopted what Julie did last year of having the time next to our, how long we're going to talk, so we're trying to keep to that. So I just want to talk about how we're kind of relaxed now since we do not have a fall town meeting. So it's going to be somewhat relaxed. We won't be hearing any budgets until much later, till December or January. So it's really now we're kind of getting informed about what's going on. And if there's anything that anybody you want to hear from now, let Jane know or myself, and we will talk about arranging the itineraries for the next couple of meetings. We have some ideas for the next agenda, but it isn't solidified yet. So just let us know on that. We will be dividing up into subcommittees to review the finances of the town. I think existing members know that, and we explained it to the new members. And then when we find out what specific warrant articles are, we'll assign the write-ups for that, and we'll try to spread out the work among the members. And we also have the town officials, as I say, come in and give us updates. And Nancy Hyde is with us tonight. The Westwood Media Center records many or most of the town meetings that go on. So if you aren't able to go to a school committee meeting, you can watch it online in the leisure in your pajamas at the middle of the night. When you can't sleep, I recommend selectmen or planning board meetings, any one of those. So it means that when you go to the meeting, you can't participate in the meetings because you're watching it online. But it's really good to hear the feedback that people are giving on different articles. Let's see. So we're going to try to avoid, we've been having these meetings where we seem to hear the same information like 3 times before it's solidified. So hopefully we have a tightened agenda, so we're not going to be hearing repeats all the time. One of the things that will be going on for the next town meeting, not this spring, but next year, probably the fall, will be the MSBA school building project. And we will get an update on that at some point. One of the instructions you gave me when I was elected chair is let's not have a repeat of what happened with planning board last year. And I had a good conversation with Brian Gorman, who's the chair this year. And they saw what our meeting dates were, and except for one meeting, they're not on the same night as ours, so they will be able to come to ours when necessary, and hopefully that'll work out better. They've already started working on their warrant articles. So hopefully that will be a better system than they're writing things and getting things at the last minute. The other thing I'm working on and trying to find out if FinCom has any responsibilities regarding the comprehensive plan, which is a little like the recreation and open space that we got that 100-page document like a week before our meeting. So I'm going to find out whether we are having any responsibility of reading that or approving it. I mean, I think it's interesting for people to read it, but whether we have any function vis-a-vis town meeting on that, we'll get that clarified. So without further ado, does anybody have any questions? Forget to ask. Okay. We have Nancy Hyde, the chair of the select board, coming, and Mike Gillette, town administrator, and I believe this is probably Mike's last appearance before us. At least Mike hopes it is, probably. So,
one never knows.
So I was going to let kind of Nancy go through her state of the town and then leave questions at the end. So I think that she's got a certain order she's doing things in, and so make notes on questions.
So I thought I would start like you guys did and introduce myself, because some of you have known that I've been involved in the town and volunteering in various roles for a while, but I started where you are, on the Finance Commission, and as a mother of twins who started when my twins were a year old. That was in 1995, so they're grown up and out of college. But anyway, it's like, I feel what you're doing, Caitlin. It's a juggling act, and I remember many a night with babysitters. But anyway, I did start with the Finance Commission, and I can personally relate to your role and express my appreciation to all you do to help
filter and assess the work that we do in town so that at town meeting, the people who attend are well informed. They count on you and we count on you, so thank you. I do have a few things to update you on. Mike is here, as Barb said, maybe his last time as a town administrator here. I'll talk about the search at the end. But there are a lot of things that are going on. I'm going to give kind of a high level where we are to get the conversation going. Mike's here to add to that, but we don't want to go too far into the weeds. We want to just give you a good sense of some things that you've worked on in the past, where they are, and some things that might happen in the future, what we're looking at. So both aspects. I'm going to start with the Islington Center. So a lot of people already know that the CVS opened up. That's part of Phase 1. And essentially, that's the big piece of Phase 1. So there was a transfer, well, not a transfer of property. Petruzziello, who's the developer, owned that site. But CVS has made the move and vacated their old building. We're going to be now entering into Phase 2, and I know at least social media has a lot of information going out about Wentworth Hall, the current Islington Library. That will be closing on October 17th. They have to prepare the materials, to pack it up, to remove it, empty out the building. But creatively, it will not be going away during the period of time waiting for the building to cross the street, be renovated, and an addition being put on. They're going to actually have a pop-up library in the current Islington Community Center. And they have a lot of information they're pushing out about what people can do to get their circulation, their materials that they want from the library, people who like using the Islington Center one. So that's very near term. There are RFPs or going out for foundation, building relocation, and expansion and renovation work. So foundation has to be poured next to the CVS parking lot before the building can be moved onto that. Then there's the work that needs to be done after the building's relocated. So there are multi-phases that will be going on. The physical move of the library building, Wentworth Hall, is expected to occur in the November-December timeframe. So for any of you who like to see buildings move, and Westwood has done that in the past, it's very interesting, and I hope there's a video taken of that. It's really, so in the Wayback Machine, the Fisher School that's now on High Street was moved from halfway down Clapboard Tree to that location. First Baptist Church was moved from where we have the island where Pond Street breaks off from 109. That was moved to its current location, so that was a move. The building down the street, the Colburn School, was moved to the back of the lot while the library was constructed and then moved to a new location next to its original one. So we have a history of moving buildings. So
Obed Baker.
And Obed Baker. That's the red building by the Dunkin' Donuts on 109. So that had moved from further down 109 on your way to Bubbling Brook to its current location. So long history of moving buildings. This one is just going across the street, which in the scheme of things is much more straightforward than many of the other ones. There'll be a land closing on a land transfer, so we get the land, the town will get the land that the Wentworth Hall is moving to, and we will give up the land to the developer that it's moving from. The developer will end up owning the site that the Wentworth Hall is presently on. That's expected to take place in late November. And the renovations on the old CVS have already begun. And the old CVS is where the Mother's Morning Out preschool program will move into, the basement space, I think we consider it. So that will be happening down the road. Phase 3, in our current Islington Community Center, the Youth and Family Services Library and Recreation will move to the new located Wentworth Hall addition. That's expected in late 2020, early 2021. So these things will move along fairly rapidly. The Mother's Morning Out program is expected to relocate to the old CVS building for 2020, fall of 2020. I mean, that's the targeted time frame, so they can open up. Obviously, the old Islington Center, Community Center, can't come down until they're relocated. And after they do relocate, there'll be another land transfer, and that's when we transfer the land underneath the current Islington Community Center to the developer, who will become the developers. And that final phase, the third phase, will then be completed. So these are all moving along. There's no expectation that anything but what is planned will track out. So that's the update on that. Moving along, University Station. If you haven't been down by University Station on University Avenue recently, you will be surprised if you go there. I was there yesterday. Big crane looming over the Wegmans building. That's the Citizens building going up under construction. The steel framing is all up. That building is expected to be delivered next summer, I believe. Is that right, Mike?
That's correct.
So moving right along, the building that's under construction right on University Avenue, that is where Makita, M-E-K-E-T-A, if I spelled it right, very close to that. They currently are at Louderbrook down the street, where Meditech is, in the Fox Hill. They're a tenant there. They're going to own this building, or fully occupy. I'm not sure about ownership. They will own it.
No, they're gonna, no, I'm not.
They're not, they're a tenant. It's fully their building.
Right.
So that is well underway for construction. And it leaves us 3 remaining undeveloped parcels at University Avenue. There are a lot of discussions taking place between our staff and the development team on potentials for those remaining parcels. But when you consider it started from 130 acres to have 3 relatively small parcels left, we are nearing build-out of University Station. One of the items that is something that people ask about is what's happening with the Bonefish Grill building. Bonefish Grill signed a 10-year lease when they entered that, so they're still obligated under a lease. So the owner, which is no longer the development team, is still getting paid, but there are constantly conversations, discussions, and negotiations trying to get in a new restaurant. So it's really, that's very removed from us. We can't control it, we can't make it happen, especially when you have a 10-year lease on a property that occupancy first occurred in 2015. So we're only after the 4-year mark at this point, or about the 4-year mark going into year 5. Doesn't mean it will stay vacant that time. I mean, parties would like to do something with it, but we can't make that happen. It's a little frustrating not to see it as an active building. East Street Bridge, not news, but that project is done. Fortunately, it is a delight to see it done. I'm sure for people living near it, it's even more delightful. But it's nice to see that it's wide and it's spacious and there are sidewalks. And we are extremely impressed with how well the state did on that project. It's an MBTA project.
It is.
And the coordination, keeping traffic moving, the downtime when the area had to be closed off kept to minimums, coordinated with Patriots football schedules. You know, they coordinated everything very well. It was not our project, it was not a town project. There was a lot of coordination with our public safety, and it's really nice to have that one behind us. And I think it's probably one of the many accomplishments when Mike thinks about his career here that he can say, thank goodness that one's closed out.
I'm proud of
He was, I mean, it was a fight for a long time.
It won't
but-
be on TV anymore when they,
Well,
after they interview.
Came to an end.
That's done, he can go. You know, it took a lot of effort to make that happen and a lot of support with our state elected officials to get MBTA to actually move on it. So, and we had some good video footage to help the cause. Unfortunately, but fortunately, we used it to our advantage. So thank goodness that's done. Something that many of you will remember from the spring, we had the community electricity aggregation discussion. A committee working with a consultant on the actual proposal has been created by our town administrator, Mike Gillette. And before it can be enacted, it has to come back to the select board for a full review. And ultimately, it's our responsibility to decide if we want to go forward with that. That was the authorization we received from town meeting. So that is moving along. Do you have any status report or?
Well, we scheduled the first meeting for the middle of the month to get it going. The process will entail issuing an RFP, getting bidders in to provide us with pricing, for electricity, and the town meeting is required that at least one of the alternatives that gets selected or presented has to be less than what we'd be paying alternatively with Eversource at the time of signing the contract. They can't guarantee it'll stay that way, but at least the signing of the contract, so that's going forward.
Next.
Westwood Lodge.
Yeah, oh, no. Oh, I moved them.
Oh, okay.
I moved them. Westwood Lodge, the most important reason for updating this is I then want to transition into an update on affordable housing. Westwood Lodge was sold, so that transferred from the owners of the lodge to green companies. You liked it better there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. That transfer occurred in August. And since that time, if anybody's driven by it, you'll see there's many trees that have been taken down to prepare for a change in the access off of Clapboard Tree. And now building demolition is actually taking place. I have the benefit of hearing it every morning, but not until after 7 a.m. And as scheduled, the field is offline this fall. There are no sports games being played on the field because it's right abutting a construction site, so there's disruption. And when the entrance moves over closer to the synagogue's parking lot, that will create space for some parking right adjacent to the field. And ultimately, that will get transferred to us as the owners. I'm not sure when that would take place.
I think when they get to that
When it's
point,
actually
yeah.
available. So before the project's built out, it will become our field again. So hopefully, the field will be back in the spring. I don't know for sure. Things have to move along in a certain schedule. Again, it's with the developer. It's not a town project. And the reason that it's important to know what's going on with the lodge, part of what they're doing is building a group home on one of the single-family lots on Clapboard Tree Street as part of the overall project. Green Companies is not going to be the builder of the single-family homes or the ARC house, the group home, but it is part of the project, and that is the contributing, one of the contributing elements to our affordable housing stock. I believe 2 of the units of the townhomes also, or 3?
I believe it's 2.
2 of the townhomes that are being built as part of the project will also be affordable. So that is contributing to our, we call it the SHI, the Subsidized Housing Inventory. So that project is moving along, and that's great. Affordable housing, that has been, yeah.
How many homes are actually going to be built there?
42 townhomes, and there are the single-family lots. I think it's 5, one of them being the group home. But I'm not the data authority on that, but it's very close to that.
And it's over 55 restriction.
Yeah.
For the
townhomes.
yeah.
So we have been working very diligently to stay above the 10% threshold of affordable housing. It's okay to go even further. The 10% is very important for you new members to know, because as long as we're over that, we're not vulnerable to a very dense development, an affordable housing development coming in and circumventing local zoning. It's nice to have our zoning be respected and followed when we have new development, so we want to continue to have that control. Not that we want to stop affordable housing, we need to continue it and stay over the 10%, but we don't want to give up that control that being over 10% affords us. Other contributing items to increasing our housing stock is the University Station, the Pulte condominiums, the 2 buildings that are being constructed right now on University Avenue. They're condos. That lottery has just recently occurred, and that then allows people who are chosen through the lottery to go through the vetting process and then be able to buy condominiums in the affordable category.
How many of those 100 are available for affordable?
10.
Okay, so we kept to the 10.
Last spring, we were about 20 short of the 10%.
Yeah.
Where do we stand now?
We're closing in on 10, on the 20 that we need, 20 plus. So we got a couple things in the works that we're hoping to wrap up, but we're right at the cusp of 20. And 20 plus is,
That's kind of a worst case.
That's a worst case scenario. It may be a little bit better than that, so we're right there.
The state comes back and tells us what our housing inventory is. I mean, we monitor it too, but they tell us, and it's a lot of data that gets analyzed, so
That's in 2020, right? So
yes,
that's the
that's
deadline.
not far away.
Right.
So the
It
change
got
of-
close very quickly.
Just for people that aren't familiar with it, basically what happens in every 10 years, or the 0 year, the census number of housing units that are available in a town becomes the denominator of the affordable housing units that we have that are listed on the SHI. On a numerator, that gets us to 10%. And so, you know, if we get above 10% here, we'll be good for the next decade, but then we have to prepare for the decade after. So any units that get built will go in the denominator over the course of the next 10 years, and we've got to make sure we
And it's-
increase the numerator.
Building permits need to be in place for the units to count in the SHI. So they don't actually have to be completed construction.
It works both ways, right? Because it could be building permits for other than affordable.
No,
Well,
actually.
when we do it, we actually require the affordable units within new developments,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we've been keeping ahead of it with our.
But the occupancy is what determines, or substantially done, is which gets into the numerator. But it is
So there's a timing.
The denominator. Yeah, the numerator, we only have a building permit, but the building permit has to lead to, had to have occupancy within a year of being issued, or it doesn't, or it falls off. So, you know, got to make sure, once you start, you get it done.
And Sarah Bouchard, I'm not sure if many of you have met her, is our housing coordinator, and she really does a terrific job and coordinates all the lotteries that are done, but advises on the developments like she did on Westwood Lodge development. If you recall, part of the Islington Center discussion was to convert 2 additional units in 321 Washington Street, the building that was constructed before the CVS construction occurred. So now all 12 residential units in that building can count because they're apartments. And once you are over a certain threshold with the apartments, all the apartments count towards your SHI. It's different. If it's ownership, you don't get that benefit. But when it's apartment housing, you do. And we also are working towards renovating 3 rentals that are in our housing authority inventory of houses. So housing authority is a separate group. They have an inventory of houses available in the community, and the goal would be to renovate those so that they too can become part of the subsidized housing inventory. So we have a lot of items that are working towards this, which was really important to be able to, as I said, keep above the 10%.
So Nancy, what is the actual date you anticipate that having, to be kicked in, if you will, when the...
I believe the census becomes available in April 2020. So that's kind of the target timeframe that we're,
And that census is
it's the
issued-
national census.
No, when's that go out? To help?
I think it probably goes out right towards the end of the year. I know we get local ones every year.
Yeah, I think it's.
Some people get more comprehensive census requests, don't they? You have to fill out more, is that?
Well, I think that, well, the federal census is what we're going to be having. That's right at the turn of the year.
I can't believe that the results are going to be done by April.
You took my question away, there, the government, I have a...
The census will know how many housing units we're talking about. They will have made the inventory of the housing units. So the census itself about who lives in there will still be going on, but they will be able to report on the number of housing units that are available for the community.
Whether a
Important
census is
clarification.
completed or not.
Yeah.
So there's...
Important.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so that's important as well, because that gives you a more accurate number, right?
Right. And it'll be the first time we get an indication as to exactly what they're counting as housing units.
Okay.
So we're giving them the data. For instance, the big thing in question right now is whether or not beds in memory care facilities count as housing units as they do in group homes.
Mhm.
We think that this census, they will, but we're not absolutely certain that's true. And that's why there's that variation.
We've been
between
working on the
20
assumption
plus.
that they will be
Yeah,
counted
and that's why
because
we
there are
get the
some
20.
court cases that inform that.
we get the 20 plus because we assume that if they don't end up counting, then we've got more units than we need.
That would
So
be a happy day.
that would be a good day, yes. They didn't count in the last census. But I think they will in this one.
Jim?
Just follow up, 2 years ago, town meeting appropriated $1 million for low and moderate affordable housing. How is that being utilized?
That
We're-
would, the
yeah.
renovation?
We're working it, that's the renovation that Nancy just spoke about of the 3 units, that was part of it. The other part was to do a group home, and then subsequent to getting the appropriation at town meeting, we had a couple of developments with group homes. There's just so many group homes and so many group home providers available, so we still have the money available. We're working with the 2 developers that are looking to develop group homes, and then, because that'll help us toward our
So you're
goal.
giving the money to the developer to make group
No,
homes, or you're going
we-
to buy
we-
them from the developer?
No, we, in one instance, the group, it's all being subsidized either by the developer and the state on those 2 issues. So we still have a sum of money that then we can work with one of the, we've identified 3 group home providers that are ready to go with something, and so we have 2 that will be satisfied probably, and there'll still be a 3rd. And then when that's all done, we will then step in and work with the remaining one to see what we can.
So that money can't be used for any other purpose than what it was
Are we going
approved for?
to own those units, or are we giving them
No, not necessarily. I think on the one that we're doing, Westwood Lodge, I think the way it's written is that ultimately, we're getting the land, and ultimately, when the mortgage is paid off, I believe we will have ownership of the home itself. It will be occupied.
But many
by-
years down the road.
But yeah, the end of a mortgage.
So I don't understand how that money, is the money being used to acquire the land? To
No,
Not
the
in that
land
case.
is, the land in that instance is being donated by the developer. It's a building lot. And then LifeWorks is going out and get a mortgage and a guarantee of state funding for the occupants that will be there. That's the deal they're working out now. And they will build a home with a mortgage, and they will use the money from the state to run the home and to pay off the mortgage.
And what about the town's money?
The town won't have anything.
Town's money
in it.
is not involved in
Not
that
involved in
particular
that
one.
at all.
But if we own it eventually, we'll have some upkeep requirements, or will there be?
As
Well,
Mike said, that's after the mortgage is
Yeah,
paid
yeah.
off, so we're
So way
talking
down
about,
the
this
road,
is
but-
not money that would be.
So
for
really,
that. We're
the
trying
money,
to make more.
the $1 million
affordable
that you're talking about is really more for upgrading and making improvements
At
on
least
the-
3 of the rentals that we've
the
spoken
rentals.
about, it doesn't account for the whole, but I just want to make clear the point, it has to be used for this purpose of some kind, but some of it isn't allocated or deployed yet. And we haven't said, okay, we know what's going on with all of it, but this is going to be something the town is going to have to continue to pursue as long as 40B housing exists. It's not anything we can let up on. And it's important to diversify our housing stock too, to make these units available. So we will always be doing this, so having this resource, we won't need to go for more money for a while until we've allocated it and it's been put to work, but it's just important that we continue to have a resource to do these things. And some of these rentals really need a lot of attention. They weren't necessarily new, younger homes when they were originally acquired by the Housing Authority. Many of them need new kitchens or new bathrooms. I mean, we want to make sure they are appropriate. So it is going to be ongoing. Move on. Next update would be on the budget season. So Pam Dukeman is starting that process, but it is very, very early on. We haven't seen anything at the select board level. We're going to kick off this year with a significantly dedicated portion of a meeting, probably sometime this month, to talk about the budget, the outlook, capital items. We'll let you know about it. We'll welcome your coming. If you can't be at the meeting, it certainly will be a meeting worth watching afterwards. So that process always kicks off in the fall, and budget season starts rolling through, and we hear about it at our meetings, virtually every meeting. If there's a time that's taken off, we know that the next meeting it will be on the agenda, just as an ongoing discussion. So that's just to let you know, that's what we'll be doing soon. On capital projects, I think this is kind of a where are we from last year and where might we be going item. There is a study underway to design lighting for the middle school field that we talked about at through last year's town meeting cycle and at town meeting. So we allocated design money, and that is proceeding. Not sure at this point, but hopefully we'll bring something forward for the actual construction money through this town meeting. I think that's the hope, the expectation. So that's on the horizon. The field behind the high school, which is a turf field, like Fly-High Field, that has come towards the end of its appropriate life and needs to be replaced. Highly probable that will be a capital item in the spring.
Do you mean the multipurpose? Yes.
Yes.
Multipurpose.
Whatever you call it, yeah. I don't mean Fly-High, because we've already replaced
Okay,
that. This one is,
Artificial turf.
Yes.
When you said turf, I thought grass, but that's not.
No.
Play-out field is not grass.
it is there are a lot of labels. I don't want to brand it like Kleenex. It's not
It's not an AstroTurf.
It's not AstroTurf, which was the term we used to use, so that's what I was trying to be careful of. But the field, it's behind the student parking lot, that one, and that is over 10 years old.
Used to be the football practice field when they first built it.
Yeah, it's well used. So anyway, I think we'll probably be seeing something for that, but we have to evaluate all the requests that come before us, as you will.
So you're not talking about Play-High field, you're talking
Nope,
about.
that's already been done. That one was
Yeah,
already
right,
replaced.
that's
I
what
am
I
not
thought.
talking
I got
about Play-High.
confused.
Yep, that's all set for a while. Road projects, we didn't do them last spring, but it wasn't like we don't need to do them. So we'll likely have some DPW requests coming through this season. The extent to which we are able to do it depends on funds available, but those projects that some of you will recall from Todd Korchin bringing it forward on behalf of the DPW, they're still there. They still need to be addressed, and we did our best to prioritize this past year. That includes sidewalk work that is much needed on places like Hartford Street, so we'll be hearing more on that. Fire Station 1, which is the main station on High Street, the chief is having a study conducted. He was already speaking with us about some of the things he needs to do, because we know, and the select board agrees, the school building project is a priority. We're not going to mix that with a major renovation or whatever that needs to be done ultimately on the fire station, but we do need to keep it safe. We do need to address some things, so there are likely to be more capital discussions as it relates to sort of prolonging the current life of this station. And ultimately, it will lead to something larger, but we need to keep up with the maintenance, and there are definitely some important things that are problematic. One of the things that the chief has brought to us that we agree to is to take some of the administrative space out of the building and put it in essentially a trailer-type office space. So that will be funded with money from last year's capital allocation. So it's just the department's grown. It's tight in there. That's an old building. Any of you who have never seen it, you should. And then you can go to the new station and you can see what a station should be more like than the main station. It's quite old.
Nancy, what's that temporary fire station down by the bridge that was constructed? What's that being used
That
for
was
today?
previously the DPW garage.
Oh, that was the garage.
It was the
prior.
DPW garage, became part of the temporary fire station when the substation in Islington was done, and then it became a storage facility and used by the MBTA during their East Street project. So its next life cycle, we don't know yet. We haven't.
So it hasn't, nothing's been, DPW doesn't,
They may need it. It's a discussion we have to have. But it has proven to be extremely useful. Really, very, very helpful in getting us through a lot of projects. A couple of miscellaneous items that don't relate to all of the project-related things and stuff I was just going through. First, we aren't having a fall town meeting. We did hear from planning board that there were some articles they had identified. Never went anywhere. what we say is, we're happy to put those on in the spring. Let us know if you still want placeholders or want them on. So that you'll have to take up with them, but it didn't rise to a level of importance to prompt a fall town meeting. And just a little education 101 on fall town meeting. When we updated our charter just a few years ago, we built into the charter that we will have a fall town meeting unless the select board opts out and votes not to have it by September 15th. So every year it's there. And we, for the past couple of years, had said, no, we don't need it. We're not going to have it just for the sake of having it. It consumes a lot of time, your time, a lot of people's time. If it doesn't have critical mass of agenda items, it's kind of hard to get a critical mass out to town meeting. For a lot of reasons, you need to have it at the right level of activity to make it worthwhile. And it doesn't preclude us from calling a special town meeting if we needed something on a different schedule, a different cycle, and we have done that in the past. So no fall town meeting. Planning board articles, if they want, will be included in the next round for the early May town meeting. And the last item is, I'll be back here tomorrow night. The select board will meet and we will choose our next town administrator. I asked for time at our last meeting. We had gone from not knowing the finalists to hearing about the finalists to interviewing them 2 days later and then coming back 5 days after that. And I asked for more time and the board agreed. So we rescheduled, or not rescheduled, scheduled our next meeting for tomorrow night, and that's when we'll decide. It will be riveting TV.
So I have one question, Nancy. On the capital budget, I understand the importance of the schools and the process they're going through, but what is the process for prioritizing I know whether it's the fire station #1, whether it's the DPW, I know has some needs. I know town hall is going to become an issue
Right.
for us. What is the process for prioritizing and timelining when we may address those and the ability of the town to finance? Because that question always comes up at
Yep.
town meeting. It would seem to me that we do have some pressing needs in town.
We do, and we've been monitoring them through what we had as a committee together called Long Range Financial Planning Committee. And that committee had done amazing work in supporting the town and doing more forecasting, but so much of that has been assumed by the select board that we're going to channel that through the select board. So the process with Pam Dukeman, her staff, department heads, capital projects, the prioritization is going to take place through the select board going forward. Not that we weren't involved, but we aren't populating a long-range financial planning committee the way we had in the past.
Is there a time when that might come to FinCom earlier rather than later? In the sense that, I know it involves the financial forecast of what the town can afford, the debt coming off and debt going forward. I know you've got to build in the schools. I do get a little concerned. I've walked through that fire station and I've looked at the structural supports underneath it, and I'm not a fan of deferring that fire station too long, and I get concerned that, things don't get cheaper as we go forward. So to me, I'd sort of like to know when that fire station fits in to our plan.
We did approve some money last year for some structural work.
I understand that,
So
but at the end of the day,
it was acknowledged it was temporary, but-
my personal opinion that we've outlived that building,
Oh, I
and
know.
we're scotch taping it now, and I get concerned that I'd like to know that in the next 2 to 5 years where it fits in.
So I will answer you without probably fully answering your question, but we know that building needs attention. We are going to be expending some money. We're going to be prudent in making those decisions that we don't put a temporary addition on and then tear it down. The trailer, for lack of a better word, I know there's a better terminology, but to bring additional administration space on site, we will be able to continue to use that structure and move it where we need to if there is bigger construction on site. So we're trying to make very thoughtful decisions, as is the chief. We look at our debt when it's rolling off. We look at our ability to fund things, just like we had with the school building project. For years, we knew the schools were going to eventually need to do something. We were watching that and looking at the debt schedule. And for those of us who were involved when the high school was built, it felt like we'd be paying for that forever. And that mortgage essentially comes due in 2023. it will be paid off. And that's not too far out. So around the time that gets paid off, we'll be looking, if approved by the town, at financing a new building project. So we're constantly looking at all those variables. We don't just do one project and say, I don't want to think about everything else. And we can't. We haven't been doing it that way for a long time. I hear you.
I mean, I respect deeply what the selectmen do. My point is, and this may sound, I mean, you have 15 volunteers around the board here. Sometimes I might, would I like to see $1 million spent on lighting a field that may be used 3 months a year versus maybe being able to fund, frankly, cover a lot of debt service on a new fire station? I just want to make sure that we get some involvement in that process.
So you will be more than welcome to be at select board meetings, and we will continue to come before you. And I want to, just for sake of clarification, capital money doesn't help pay for necessarily a borrowing to fund a fire station. So if we spend money on a capital project here, that's a one-time expenditure. That doesn't give us the annual payment to pay on debt going forward.
I understand it. But
we have new members, so I just want to sort of add a little clarification
I guess I'm a
on
little,
that.
I understand that there's no, to me, the long-range financial planning involved people other than town elected officials and town staff, and that's the one thing I see. I guess you guys would decide not to go forward with that, and that concerned me a little bit.
Yep.
Because I think we used to have 2 FinCom representatives on it, and that would give some FinCom some feedback in terms of what's going on.
We will look to you for ongoing feedback. We're just going to structure it a little
Yeah,
differently.
structured a little differently. It was still an advisory to the selectmen.
Well, I understand that,
and
but
and it really had lived its life. It had accomplished a lot, but there were a lot of things that needed to have a broader discussion about.
Barbara, I understand that, but I'll be fairly direct here. We did get some feedback on the issue with the lights going on and why we hadn't done a study. We were going to go out and spend $1 million. That information came to us, so we were then able to question it. And I just want to make sure that we get that flow of information through this decision process.
Yep.
Two quick questions.
Oh, first, this
Oh,
is Howard
sorry.
Messer. We all introduced
Oh.
ourselves, so introduce
Hi.
yourself. And how long have you been on the board? Tell us something interesting about yourself and how long you've been on the board.
Okay. I've been on the board this time. This is my 3rd year. I had been,
Yes.
my 3rd year this time. I had been on the board 10 or 12 years ago for a number of years.
Yes, and it's Howard Messer.
I'm Howard Messing. Quick questions. Any labor contracts going to be negotiated this year? Anything up?
They're all up.
They're all up this year. So that creates a variable for the budget
Mhm.
that has to be taken into account. Okay. And other than Mike, any other senior staff leaving, have to be replaced?
Yeah, that's what
Oh.
I'm supposed to say. I hope not. No, nothing in the works. And we have a we have a great group of people, and, you know, we're going to be going through a transition, but if I may, many thanks to Mike, who has agreed to stay with us as we go through this search process. And we have moved the search process along, even though we learned in mid-May that Mike would be leaving. We kept it moving right along, so we have really been very effective in our timeline and the people that have worked on it with the screening committee. And all along the way, Mike has said, I'm able to stay. And so for that, we're appreciative for many things, but especially that's helped us and will help us. So I wanted to add that.
On the condos that were at Coburn School, I mean, the apartments, they've converted to condos. Is
They
there
are.
any component of affordable housing there now? Or was there ever?
No.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that came back to us in that process was to update the parking situation. So with the ownership, it was identified for their ownership documents.
Yes.
If I could double back to the easement.
Sure.
What about the left turn only light going from southbound on Washington Street to eastbound on East Street? That was part of the project. I haven't seen it yet. When is that supposed to be?
I don't know that got incorporated. I think it got studied. I'd have to get back to.
Well, I know at least a dozen people who voted in favor of the project specifically because that was part of the project. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the vote was close enough that if those 12 people had voted the other way, we wouldn't have a project. So I'm very concerned to hear that it's not
Well, I'm not saying it's absolutely not.
Well,
I have to get back to you.
Okay, please do, but the fact that you said it was studied rather than, yes, it's gonna happen, that concerns me.
We will follow up, Chris.
Any other questions?
Yes. Mike, how many years?
32.
I think that you do anything for over 30 years is quite an achievement. So congratulations to you and best of luck to you and happy, healthy years of retirement.
Yes,
And whatever comes next.
Yeah.
and thank you. And you're still on call to us. You can come in, right?
Maybe you can have the minutes reflect.
You can have, yeah,
Yes.
one space to
Have the
fill
minutes.
anyone with
When
your-
he gives up his town cell phone that we're able to call him on at any hour of the day, he might not give us the new one. So.
Well, I'm taking the number with me.
Oh, you should have told me that.
We all do.
Anyway, well, let it be recorded that we thank him very much for his many years of service and many years of coming to FinCom meetings. Far out, he was at FinCom all the time. You were on it before too, so.
I'll just add that I enjoyed every minute of it, so.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
No, I did. I mean, this is, you know, we all talk about the job that we love to have, that it doesn't make it like you're coming to work all the time. I had it, and I have it here in Westwood, so I really.
And he goes to all the meetings everywhere, planning board, everything else, so.
What are you going to do with your evenings?
My wife had something to say about that now.
Well, there is another opening on the FinCom.
He doesn't.
He has
I
to
don't
live in
here.
town.
Yeah. But I have talked to the town administrator in the town I do live in. He said, maybe you can come for you.
Well, it'll be their gain, so,
Yeah.
thanks for.
Congratulations.
So, thanks.
Well, thank you for having us in. I know we'll have a lot of discussions in the weeks and months ahead. And should you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. I'm happy to help in any way I can.
And we will have you at the next meeting to introduce our new town administrator. So,
Sounds good.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Nancy.
So Jane pointed out that I neglected to talk about what I said I was going to talk about. So you'll see in your packet, there's a town meeting process. And it just highlights what our timing is. This is more for the new people, but an idea of when we're getting the budget preparation among the town departments and when we have our hearings. So that kind of, so the municipal and school budget presentation that's when Pam and the business manager of the schools come in and make their formal presentation of what their budget is going to be. The subcommittees then meet with the schools and the different departments in the municipal side to talk about their budgets, and then they prepare a report, and that's what's done on March 10th, is they will prepare their presentation, which will be a summary of what had been presented before, but also new information and kind of what our spin or our concerns are of that. So, and then we have our hearings. So it's really important that people are able to come to the hearings. So around that time, it's very, those are the times. I mean, Jim didn't talk about attendance at these meetings, but it is important that you try to get to the meetings and let Jane know if you can't make it.
And we can participate telephonically if
Yes,
there's a
we can.
reason, correct? And Jane has that process for us, right?
Yes, it's not a perfect process, as people who, Howard and
Peter have done it.
Yes.
I've
How
done it,
was
I've done it once too.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but we're working on some better, but it absolutely, we do our best to make that happen.
Okay.
I forgot to mention, countless 5 meetings.
Okay, thank you. So you're off if you've missed 5 meetings, but that doesn't count if you're here electronically. I assume it doesn't.
No, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
And you can vote.
You can vote, okay. But it would be nice, make sure you set aside the nights that we're voting. It would be good if you set that aside. You want to go do the
Sure.
housekeeping?
Yes, just really quickly. A couple of people talked about the ethics obligation. I'm not going to torture you by reading this, but you know that every 2 years, municipal employees, board members, and committee members all need to go through the conflict of interest online training. So can you please make sure, if you haven't done that, just email me and let me know. And always in the month of December, Dottie will report in who needs to go through it, and she'll be in contact with you.
Should she do that? Because if I can't remember whether we've done it
Yes.
over the last week, okay,
Yes.
thanks.
So should we just
Yes.
wait until she
Well, if
contacts
you know
us?
you haven't done it at all.
The new people know,
yes.
but the rest of us
But
are-
everybody else, December is when she'll be.
Okay.
Yes, so just so you know that. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody, we did an orientation for new people earlier tonight, just to remind everybody about, and I think Jim touched on it, on email, because we're such a large group, that really group email is to be used to, like, for scheduling purposes, and you need to avoid having dialogue, communication through emails, particularly group email. It breaks the public open meeting laws. So I just put a
Do
slide
not
in here.
hit reply to all.
Yes, that's I'll say that a million times over the next couple of months. Please don't ever reply to all in a group email. The same open meeting law standards apply for social media as well, Facebook and Twitter, so just be really cognizant of that. Dottie put this slide together, and I think the bottom one is the most important, is be thoughtful about the manner in which comments are made and when they're made and who they're made to. It's just a reminder to you. And I also just wanted to talk about attendance in terms for you guys, not about the big picture attendance, how many meetings you can miss and all of that, but just we know you guys are super busy and you're going in a million different directions. I check up until the minute we start the meeting, and sometimes after if I haven't heard. Please let me know if you're running late or if you're not able to attend, and I will try to make a space sort of at the end somewhere if you're coming in late. And, so I'm always checking, so things happen in last minute, so I just wanted to let you know that. I'm always looking.
So if you need to communicate, kind of do it through Jane. She will set up meetings, and you can all do it through Jane, and that works. It doesn't mean, because especially now, we're not deliberating on anything. There's nothing before us. So, in a social atmosphere, we don't have anything to talk about now. So it's not as big an issue. So it's, we can all talk and get to know each other. But especially when we start having articles coming in, that's when we have to be really careful about, not talking about things. So then the last thing is, and I might be a little subject to change, but I gave the subcommittee assignments. I know the new people were very interested to find out what their assignments were going to be. So Howard has graciously agreed to head up the municipal group again, but Tom is going to be the vice chair. He's not getting out of this completely. And then we've got Cindy, Caitlin, and hopefully our third member, because municipal, it's more difficult because you have to interview the head librarian, the police, the fire, the DPW,
Rec
department. So, all of those aspects. So there are there's a lot of reporting that needs to be done. So that's kind of why they need a lot of numbers. But education is going to be Diane McCarthy, Chris Pareda, and Mike Powers. And then also we need a liaison to the Mass School Building Assistance, what's the committee called? The building committee. The school building committee. So Diane has agreed to do that. It's liaison in that she's just going to be attending the meetings. They're open meetings, and she's going to attend those meetings because she's been dying of curiosity of what's going on. So anyway, so she's going to anybody, those are open
Evenings
meetings.
are completely free.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
good,
Yes.
That's demonstrating some real leadership.
And I have
That's
16-year-olds.
real
I got to get out of the house.
Oh, no. 8 a.m.
Oh, okay. The meetings have been moved to, maybe you don't agree now. Anyway, as long as it doesn't interfere with Mike's golf tee-off time, maybe he could.
That's a shot. I took that as a shot.
Anyway.
Only because it was Mike.
So anyway, the Community and Economic Development and Planning. Jim wants to step down after 5 years, and Lauren, so I put you down as co-chair, and you're going to be helping Lauren, but Lauren is going to, thinks she might take it over, but they're going to work as a team. Yeah. Well, it was either that or Bill Bruce is being added to that, and I think he's a little new for it, so. And I've also
Dive right
offered,
in.
I've
Your
also
feet wet,
offered
just
Peter
like-
Lentz to help out as well with that group. So pretty much that group will just be looking at the planning board and things. I think for this coming year, there won't be a lot. There won't be too many there won't be any other articles except for planning board. There, you know, we already did the Islington thing. There won't be anything new on University Station. And the comprehensive plan is the one thing I'm trying to find out what our responsibility is. And then financial, it's kind of the group that Mike O'Hara led, which I was on, which was we kind of called it long-range planning, but it wasn't the same as the advisory group to the selectmen. So George, and I think that's Peter's particular interest too, is kind of looking at like the overall balance of how we spend our money. And in particular, I think of as you know, Pam does presentations, and we talked a lot about it last year, how this money is getting apportioned out, like from a capital standpoint, tax relief versus, you know, looking at the aid to the elderly, the effective tax codes that we'll have. So right now, there's not a section for writing it up, but you'd be doing a presentation to us on that, and kind of looking at the overall, kind of like, you know, looking at the scale that Pam always presents to us of balancing all those different items. So I think that kind of accounts for everybody on that group. And Bill, you're on the planning board, very exciting group. So if anybody really wants a change, I thought I gave everybody an opportunity before, but if you want to change, you know, I can look at it. But we do need more people on municipal. So anything else? Oh, we have meetings. Yeah, minutes. We have the minutes from June 4th. If everybody who was at that meeting got a chance to look at it.
Doesn't say who was at the meeting.
Everybody, well, it says you were absent.
Yeah.
Up at the top, it says you
Oh,
were.
it does, so that's
it says you
everybody
were
other than
absent.
me. Yeah.
I guess, were you was everybody there then?
Everyone else?
Yeah, everybody else.
That's right.
Howard, you were not there?
I remember I met you at.
Yes, because I was
at
going
Jared's
to, I was
afterwards.
going to
That's right.
nominate you for chair, and you didn't show up. So,
Word got to me.
Strategic.
yeah, it was, yeah, it was very strategic.
Wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, anyway, so does anybody want to make a motion? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And
Second.
a second. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved. Is there anything else that anybody has on the committee wants to talk about? Okay, get back to Jane if there's specific things that you want discussed at our next meeting. We're looking at, we'll have something on the schools next time. That's what we definitely know. Maybe from, yeah, oh yes. I got this request from this person, Mary Ann LeBlanc. I don't know, she seems to think she has some sway with this group. And now that she's on the Disability Commission, she said that there's a lot of information that she thinks we should know and just be aware of as we're looking at different things for the town. So I think she can't make our meeting, but she's going to have a couple people from her committee do a presentation. So, so for your, Mary Ann was the chair for this for 5 years, 6 years. So she does have a little sway with me. I think, is that it? Is there anybody from the public or the press? The public. Any questions or anything?
I just have one question for Nancy. Nancy, is there anything you think the FinCom could do to help the new town administrator get acclimated? I mean, I know the person coming in is coming into a fairly sophisticated town, but is there anything we can do as a FinCom to help with that transition?
Here. It's over here.
Or anything we shouldn't do or should do is, I guess, my question to you.
Is it working?
That's fine. Can you just spin it? Sorry.
I can't answer that yet. I mean, we have to, one, get the person chosen, two, figure out when the person makes
Right.
that fills that role, and they'll be inundated with so many things. So I think it's our direction from the board to staff for everybody to help support that
Right.
person. And, I mean, we have a very talented group of people who have been here a long time, so there's a transition, of course, and it's going to take time, whomever it is in that role, but I think we've got a good
Okay.
system of people. But I'll let you know, I mean, it's something that learning the role, the sequence, it's good timing, it's right at the beginning of budget
Right.
season. Ideal would be right after town meeting, but that's not how it worked, so.
Just, you know, if you
Stay
think,
tuned.
if you think anything that
Thank you.
either individuals can do to help in the process, I mean, this is quite a, sort of, it's a wonderful town. I just can imagine a person coming in, as smart as they may be, just getting up to speed is going to be a challenge. So
After
I'm
somebody
wondering if-
being in the job for
yeah.
32 years, that only
Yeah.
makes it a bigger.
So if you think
more
of anything,
daunting.
maybe through Barbara, that we could do to help,
Thank you.
know, that would be great.
Don't ask them questions at the first meeting
Yeah.
that we have them here for.
Don't expect the brain
Yeah.
transfer to take place overnight.
Exactly, and cut them a break if they mention their old town.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
If nobody has anything else, I'll,
Can we circulate an updated contact list?
oh, yes.
I was going to mention that, yes. We were just, I was just waiting to see if we would have a 15th member before we did.
Well, why don't we get it out anyway? Because I know I was working off an old list as I was calling people, so.
Right.
It would be-
send
I can't find it. My printer isn't working, so
Okay.
I'm having,
So-
I can't find it, so
Okay.
anyway. It'll be it's only a page. It's not like some of the things we received that have so many pages, so. You probably did. I
Okay.
have discovered that Jane
All right.
actually does everything, so,
Okay.
so
I'm
it was
sorry. I
actually a
thought
little
I
easier
had
becoming
one.
chair. I can just say, I want something, and she does it. It's like, you know, I don't even have to ask people to come.
Sorry. I
It's
thought I sent
wonderful.
that.
You probably did.
I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing else, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Do you want to take your joke 20?